Welcome to the eCommerce Profits Podcast, where we feature top founders and experts in the e-commerce industry and take an in-depth look at the struggles and successes in growing e-commerce brands profitably.
Hey guys, Josh Chin here. I'm the host of the eCommerce Profits Podcast, where we feature top experts and founders in the e-commerce industry, and we go behind the scenes of the struggles and successes in growing a brand. Now, this episode is brought to you by Chronos.agency. If you run a direct-to-consumer e-commerce brand that is ready to scale and to double your customer lifetime value through life cycle marketing, Chronos is your company. We've helped hundreds of brands scale profits with email, SMS, and mobile push marketing while getting an average of 3,500% ROI from our efforts. We've worked with brands like Truly Beauty, The Udi, Elias Skin, and many more. The next step is to email us at sales@chronos.agency, or you can go to chronos.agency to learn more. Today's guest is Gen Furukawa, the co-founder of Prehook, a leading quiz platform for Shopify merchants, helping Shopify merchants scale with zero-party data and first-party data, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means. Gen has been in e-commerce for over 10 years, with the last 7 years in SaaS, in e-commerce SaaS. Prior to Prehook, Gen was part of the founding team and VP of marketing at Jungle Scout, a brand and company that many of us are aware of, the leading software for Amazon sellers globally. Now, Prehook helps hundreds of high-growth Shopify merchants sell more, accelerate list growth, and capture zero-party data with interactive quizzes. Gen is also the host of the e-commerce marketing podcast, Cart Overflow, where he shares what the best brand operators, agencies, and tech platforms are doing to grow their e-commerce revenues. Gen, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh. Thanks so much for having me.
Gen, tell us a little bit about what zero-party data means and how does that differ from first-party data and Prehook's role in the whole thing.
Yeah, totally. So zero-party data has been getting more traction and more mentions in 2021, 2020, which is it is basically data that customers proactively and willingly share with a brand. Now, this differs from first-party data, which a brand passively gathers, and so that would include things like purchase behavior, which is what you've purchased, how much you've spent, for example, so you can create segments on lifetime value or VIPs. Engagement with the website. Did you abandon checkout? What pages did you visit? Interactions with email, as in, do you open a lot? Do you click through a lot? And so these little data points, first-party data, are usually used to triangulate and create assumptions about the customer. And second-party, third-party data is basically that, but just aggregated and anonymized and packaged up. So that's where you might get things like Facebook's interests and behaviors segmentation. So the thing is, you don't know how accurate it is because you don't know the source. You don't know when it was collected. So it could be very old and it could be very disparate in its origin. But zero-party data is beautiful because you know exactly where it came from. It is you, Josh Chin, who has shared what your interests, preferences, goals, challenges are. And the reason why you might do that is because there was a promise of an exchange of value. So that's really the crux of a quiz, which is, hey, Josh, we'll ask you a few questions. You might enter your email, phone number, or both so that we can send it to you. And then we'll make your shopping experience better on site. We'll recommend a product based on what your quiz responses are. But then also afterwards, in your email or your SMS, they will be far more relevant and timely because we know what you're looking for. So it is really a win-win between brands and consumers, where brands are getting the data that all of a sudden after iOS 14, iOS 15, third-party cookies being deprecated is far harder to gather. And then consumers are willing to share it because they want a personalized experience and they're willing to pay more in terms of average order value and more conversions and therefore higher lifetime value. And a quiz is just one way to do that at scale.
I love the idea of interactive quizzes, and as an email marketer, where information is relatively scarce, It's really important for me to be able to paint a picture of what a profile is like, and then automate the journey in a way that mimics a one-on-one interaction as you would in a retail store. Maybe even elevate that experience beyond that. And I see that there is a clear upside and there is a clear value add in terms of the revenue that can be generated from focusing on using zero-party data to form good automations and good personalized journeys with a customer. What are some interesting ways that you've seen merchants use your quizzes to automate that journey and personalize their customer experiences?
Yeah, great question. So now we're talking, all right, after they've already opted in with their contact information, they've already gotten recommended a product. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens in the communication? And I think that's really where the value of zero-party data comes in, because all of a sudden you know how you can segment. So no longer are you kind of going surface level of like who this person is, like what zip they live in and what products they purchase, but you can get some of the psychographic information, the why they want to purchase or what they're looking for, so you can actually appeal to their emotions. And I think it makes me think of we buy with emotion and justify with logic, and so you're appealing to their emotions because you know what it is that you're not able to gather via any other channel except if they tell you directly. Now, what are the interesting ways that people are doing it? I think if we speak with Klaviyo in particular, it's using a post-quiz flow. And I think structurally, it can be very similar to an abandoned cart flow, where you would just clone your abandoned cart. And the benefit of cloning it is, of course, you can have kind of like the same structure for trigger or filters, trigger filters, conditional filters, where you are having the trigger be that they took the quiz. And so Prehook, for example, we send data through as a metric. So that's a trigger. And then the recommended product, you might want to wait for an hour, make sure that they don't purchase. And if they did purchase, then end the flow for them. But is to dynamically insert the recommended product. And so you do that with the event metrics. And so basically you're just building out one campaign or one email, and it can scale infinitely. So if it's a skincare brand, for example, Josh has normal skin and wants a cleanser, a serum, and a moisturizer. Like all those products can be dynamically inserted. But maybe say I have dry skin and have acne and looking for these things. Those recommended products, even though it's the same flow and same campaign, same email, would be completely different because of the data that's sent through as my custom property or my event metric. So I think that's really one of the coolest things about a quiz when you hook in the integration with Klaviyo or Omnisend, Attentive, PostScript, is that you're basically able to personalize at scale.
Again, what's the best way to initiate a quiz funnel? Is it a pop-up or is it a little selection on the menu bar? What's the best way that you've found?
Yeah, I think probably in a hero image where there's most visibility. So one brand, for example, that uses Prehook is it's called T-Elixir, which is an adaptogen brand, mushrooms. And so they're seeing a lot of success with a quiz because they have it across different entry points on their website. So they do have it in their header nav. They do have it in their hero image. They do have it as an exit intent pop-up from Klaviyo. And they do have a dedicated landing page for paid and email traffic. And so depending on how important it is, you'd want to make it more prominent. And I think for T-Elixir, where the problem that they are using the quiz to solve is what product is right for me. And not many people necessarily know what mushroom tea is best for them based on what their health issues are or their taste preferences or whatever. So it simplifies the buying process. And so because of that, they want to make sure that as many customers as possible go through the quiz. But then if you go to a subscription brand, let's say Wink, which is a wine brand, or Scentbird, which is fragrance or Stitch Fix, there you have to take the quiz because all of those preferences are so important in knowing what to send on a monthly basis or quarterly basis. So that one's a requisite, and you can't really go anywhere on the homepage without entering the quiz.
Have you seen have you seen quiz funnels affecting conversion rates at all? And what I mean by that is when we think about conversion rates as a business, as a brand completely, versus the conversions that we get from introducing a quiz funnel, it feels like a compromise, right? When I introduce additional friction to buying through a quiz, that reduces the conversion rates for the entire site. But as long as the conversion rates of the conversions from the quiz outweigh the loss of conversions from the website, I'm good. That's kind of like the biggest conversations that I've been having with merchants thinking about introducing a quiz funnel. Is there a way around that, or is that the right way to think about it?
So I do understand what you're saying. I think is basically you want to minimize the hoops that somebody's going through on their path to purchase, right?
Exactly.
But one of the benefits that offsets that challenge is that the quiz ultimately, if done right, will simplify the buying journey. Because I think if you look at a wine brand or a coffee brand, say Trade Coffee, another great example is if the learning curve might be intimidating, or the anxiety from having to choose or make decisions as a buyer might be off-putting, a quiz can simplify that. And Wink, for example, I really like their quiz because wine can be very esoteric and complicated because people might not know what tannic structure they like or what flavor profiles, but they do know, do they like citrus, or do they like nuts, or do they like coffee, or do they like chocolate? And by kind of making these questions that are more accessible and easier, therefore it makes the end product that much more palatable, I think, as a product to purchase. And that's the exact benefit of, say, a sommelier if you go to a restaurant, or a sales associate if you go to a brick and mortar retail shop, is that they know what their products are, and they know that their inventory, and then it's their job to guide you based on what your needs are. And the quiz is the exact same thing, just in a digital form and at scale.
Interesting. Now, what are some of the examples of brands using information that you've collected through Prehook really well on the back end, whether it be through remarketing, email, SMS? And I know that Prehook integrates with some of my personal favorite software like Klaviyo, PostScript, Attentive, Omnisend. What kind of examples could you give us?
Yeah. So I think the first is the dynamic personalization. So that's, in your campaign builder, you're clicking preview, and then you can see the metric. So Prehook sends data through as a metric, and then there's all of the related metric events. So that's like the title, the price, the product URL. So like I was saying, putting that all together to dynamically personalize, I think, is a really cool use case that some brands are using. And then taking that one step back towards the segmentation, that's where you can really get more granular in how you're targeting your different flows or campaigns. So one brand, for example, we're working with is a fragrance brand. They're doing really well. It's a high-end fragrance brand. They're doing really well with their quiz, but they hadn't really utilized the customer data as well. So taking the custom properties, okay, do they like citrus or woodsy? Are they a man or a woman? Are they using it for an everyday or special events? All of these are different data points that they use in their messaging and their campaigns to highly target what the product that they're including in the email is, but then also what the messaging and the positioning of that fragrance is, because as you might imagine, the campaign would look completely different if it's even just man versus woman, and then getting more granular, like what their use case is, what the aspirational image is, what product they're including to link back. So that's an example of the data being used, and I think like segmentation is critical. And then take that to a different channel, even within Klaviyo, using that with SMS. So you're interspersing SMS messages with email messages, and then it's all highly targeted based on the zero-party data gathered in the quiz.
Again, have you seen anything done with lead generation using quizzes? What I'm talking about is the premise being customer acquisition being more and more expensive, iOS giving us a pain in the butt. Now, could we improve our costs, or reduce our cost per acquisition by funneling people through a simple quiz and promising a reward at the end, and running Facebook ads or paid social ads through that funnel on site? Is that something you've explored? Because it's an idea that I've been toying around with, and in theory, assuming that conversions are healthier than sending someone to a landing page, and especially for products that don't necessarily command an impulse purchase, it should allow for either A, an immediate purchase, or B, retargeting super effectively because of all the information that we've gathered. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, totally. We have seen brands do it, and I often go through the Facebook ads library just to see, like, okay, what are different brands using as a hook? Because ultimately, you want a good hook in order to get people to stop their thumb scrolling and then click through on the ad. So there's one brand. It's a kind of like a high-end bag brand that uses a Facebook ad, and it's like what bag is best for you. And I think the premise there, and this is kind of applicable to all Facebook ads, is very interesting because it's appealing to our human emotion, our human need to learn more about ourselves, and that's a curiosity gap. So that's where a quiz can really add a lot of intrigue. And if you imagine maybe like 5 years ago or so, like all these BuzzFeed and New York Times quizzes were highly viral because you take the quiz, you can maybe like categorize yourself in one way, and then you share it with your friends. Okay, I'm this, what are you? But take that, twist it a little bit for what bag are you, or what beardsman are you? For Beard Brand has a quiz that they plaster at the top, or for Scentbird, what's your ideal scent? But these are all questions that we don't know, but that's the fun of the quiz. And I think that's where you can see some great landing pages and hooks for Facebook ads. Then you drive them to the landing page. Ideally, this is where we can get into the mechanics of quiz best practices. And ideally, it's kind of like to the point and short, not a lot of superfluous questions. Get an opt-in. We see, 70, 80, 90% completion rates of people who start the quiz to finish. And then after they enter their contact info, then they recommend a product. But because the quiz platform is integrated with, say, Klaviyo, you get all that data sent through immediately. So compare that, that quiz experience to if it were, hey, check out a 15% off discount on all scents or something. You get an email, cool. Then you send your coupon. So you're getting brand dilution in terms of like cheapening the brand with a discount upfront, profit margin dilution because that 15% is coming from the bottom line. And then you don't necessarily know anything about them. So you don't even know, is it a man or woman that I'm sending these fragrances to? And then to bring it back full circle on paid ads, I think one of the really cool things is that you can actually kind of like create a more unified omni-channel experience in that the segments that you're creating in Klaviyo can be ported over to, say, your Facebook Ads Manager. So that what, that, for example, this is a man who likes woodsy scents for special events. But then that segment can be created in your different ads platforms. So there's some unity in terms of the experience and the products that you're advertising, and so that the ad drives a lead to your capture the lead, and then that lead and the information that you're gathering back would inform a more targeted paid ads experience.
For people looking for inspirations and kind of diving deeper into what Dennis shared, you guys can go to prehook.com, go to under the learning tab, and click on use cases. Scroll all the way to the end. You'll see this massive Airtable of companies that have used quizzes in various forms, and how they have then filtered kind of people through that funnel and redirected people into different products and product categories that they have on their site. It's incredible. I think you guys have like 120 different companies, categories, goals, and URLs. This is such a lifesaver and such a time saver for someone who is a marketer trying to build a quiz funnel and trying to get some ideas and inspiration. This is something that I would 100% use.
I'm glad you found that.
Just a shout out.
Yeah,
there.
Thank you. It is a little buried. I need to bring it a little bit easier to find.
Yes.
But yeah, as we're building the product, okay, how are people using quizzes? What are the use cases? What are the niches? Where could it be of most value? And so, yeah, it's like putting it together. And so there's no opt-in, by the way. You can just go and check
It's right there. It's basically sort of like a blog post. You scroll all the way to the end. You see this massive list of companies and links. It's going to save you a ton of time. It's so good.
Thank you.
And I see a couple of familiar company names out here as well. 100% Pure, Rick Kostick. So the founder, Rick Kostick, was actually on this show a while back as a guest. Definitely go listen to his episode, guys, if you're listening. And they have a product recommendation quiz on their site. And now, from my conversation with Rick, one of the things that makes 100% Pure really unique, besides the fact that they use all natural ingredients, which is incredible, is the fact that they have hundreds and hundreds of SKUs, and it's incredibly difficult to keep track of every single one of them. And they have loyal customers who have been purchasing the same products for years and years and years on end from them. So it's really difficult for them. One of the difficulties that we talked about on the show was that it's difficult for them to phase out products as you would with a typical retail business with product life cycles and everything. They chose to keep products on store for that select few customers. So it's really difficult to kind of keep things, I would presume, profitable when you're only producing a small amount of everything. So finding the right skincare, self-care routine and set of products that work for you is incredibly, incredibly important. And the product finder quiz is exactly what they're trying to do with what we've just talked about. So I hope they're using Prehook. Are they?
I don't think so. Because I started putting it before we even had Prehook. But yeah, I think we do have some mutual clients or customers, Pup Naps, for example.
Yeah,
they are using
brand.
Prehook, dog beds. And so I think with any quiz, you can kind of plot out, okay, what is the strategy that they are using? And like Pup Naps, for example, there are different size dogs, of course. There are different maybe health needs of the dog as it relates to the dog bed. There are different styles, levels of comfort, and then there are different tiers. I think maybe of like the like how plush the pillow is, and so it's one way to just guide them through simple, quick questions, capture the lead, and then recommend the product. And I haven't looked at their quiz on how they're doing performance-wise, but it's a large brand. They have a great product, and they're still using Prehook. So
it's awesome. Again, what can we expect from Prehook in the next couple of months, quarters, years? What's the future of Prehook?
Yeah, great question. So we are trying to stay as close as possible to the customers, and customers' needs are changing. Couple things that we're focusing on product wise is design, trying to make it, like some of the nuances of what a brand has, in their user experience, user interface. Those are critical. And so we're trying to make those as plug and play as possible, as well as some of the analytics. And so you're gathering the data. Now, how do you pull insights from it? Because gathering it just doesn't mean anything if it's not actionable. So I think those are areas that we can make strides forward on. But I think we launched live a little less than a year ago, and we've made great traction so far. And so we're trying to continue to learn from what customers' needs are and build towards that. So if we talk a few years out, you have to ask your customers, and maybe they can tell me what we should be doing then.
That's awesome. I love that. And you're basically taking your own advice. Listen to your customers, and you'll be fine. You do way better than most brands out there.
Totally.
I think that's what people are kind of missing out on. Building without talking to customers and kind of making assumptions without listening to what the market wants. That's a really difficult way of building. So I really love your approach there. Again, for people listening, interested to learn more about what Prehook does and find out whether it's right for their business, where should they go to?
Totally.
And what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. So you can go to the website, prehook.com, prehook.com, and then reach out to me directly, again, at prehook.com. It's my direct email. Would love to help just brainstorm what a quiz might look like, how you could use it, how you could tie it in with your email service providers, and then how ultimately it would contribute to driving more sales, because that's the main goal, I think, is accelerating list growth. And like you're seeing brands with 30% or more from email revenue, capture zero-party data and improve conversion rate. So I personally would love to help and can build out the quiz, share some ideas, share how you'd use the data. So please feel free to reach out to me. And we have a free 14-day trial. So it's plenty of time to get it up and running and gather some initial data.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. And as usual, guys, links will be in the show notes down below. You can go to chronos.agency/podcast to check out the latest episodes. And thank you. See you guys. Listen in on the next one very soon. And before we go, Gen, what's the best way to contact you?
So Gen at prehook.com is my email, or on Twitter is just Gen Furukawa. And I can send it to you, Josh, because maybe it's easier to click on it. But yeah, on Twitter as well.
Perfect.
DM's open.
And you're on LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn,
yeah, Gen Furukawa.
Facebook.
Nice thing of not a whole lot of people have the name, so
it's definitely a unique name for sure. 100%. Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for listening to the eCommerce Profits Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get notified of future episodes.